Have you ever noticed how fear seems to show up everywhere in your life? Maybe it's that knot in your stomach when you think about your health, or the anxiety that grips you when facing uncertainty. Perhaps it's the worry that keeps you awake at night, or that constant underlying tension that makes you feel like something is always wrong. You're not alone in this experience. In fact, you're part of a vast human family that has been wrestling with fear for generations, searching for something deeper than temporary relief. What if I told you that the very fear you're experiencing right now, whether it's about your body, your relationships, your future, or even your spiritual journey, is actually the key to understanding something profound about healing itself? Not just healing in the way we typically think about it, like getting over a cold or recovering from an injury, but healing in its truest, most complete form. Today, we're going to explore one of the most revolutionary concepts from A Course in Miracles, a teaching that has transformed millions of lives around the world. We're diving deep into the idea that healing and fear cannot coexist, and that true healing is actually the natural result of releasing fear. This isn't just another self-help concept or positive thinking technique. This is about understanding the very fabric of how your mind works and how it either creates suffering or allows for miraculous healing. You might be watching this because you're dealing with physical symptoms that won't go away, or maybe you're struggling with emotional pain that seems to have no end. Perhaps you're someone who has tried everything: doctors, therapists, medications, alternative treatments. And while some things might have helped temporarily, that deep sense of something being fundamentally wrong still persists. Or maybe you're simply curious about spiritual healing and want to understand what A Course in Miracles really teaches about this mysterious process we call healing. Here's what makes this conversation different from anything else you might have heard. We're not going to focus on trying to fix, change, or eliminate your symptoms. Instead, we're going to look at the root cause of all dis-ease, all discomfort, and all suffering. We're going to examine fear itself, not as something to fight or overcome, but as something to understand so completely that it naturally dissolves. Throughout this journey, you'll discover why traditional approaches to healing, while sometimes necessary and helpful, often miss the mark when it comes to lasting transformation. You'll understand why someone can be perfectly healthy physically but still feel fundamentally unwell, and why another person facing serious illness can radiate peace and wholeness. You'll learn why the Course teaches that all healing is essentially mental healing, and how this understanding can revolutionize not just your approach to your own well-being, but your entire relationship with life itself. We're going to explore three crucial aspects of this teaching together. First, we'll uncover the true nature of fear and how it operates in your life, often in ways you might not even recognize. Then, we'll examine the actual mechanism of healing, how it really works when fear is released and love is allowed to flow freely. Finally, we'll discuss practical ways to apply these insights in your daily life. So this isn't just intellectual understanding, but lived experience. What you're about to discover challenges many assumptions our culture makes about health, illness, peace, and suffering. It invites you to consider that perhaps the healing you've been seeking isn't something you need to achieve or earn, but something that's already your natural inheritance, waiting to be uncovered as the layers of fear are gently released. Whether you're new to A Course in Miracles or have been studying it for years, whether you're dealing with specific challenges right now or simply wanting to deepen your understanding of how healing really works, this exploration is designed to meet you exactly where you are. No prior knowledge is required, just an open mind and a willingness to consider that perhaps everything you thought you knew about healing is just the beginning of a much more beautiful story. So take a deep breath, let yourself settle in, and prepare to discover how healing as release from fear might just be the most natural thing in the world. Fear as the root of all illness and separation. Let me ask you something that might surprise you. What if fear isn't actually protecting you the way you think it is? What if, instead of being your guardian against danger, fear is actually the very thing that's creating most of the problems in your life? This isn't just philosophical speculation. This is at the heart of what A Course in Miracles teaches about the nature of reality itself. Here's something most people don't realize. Fear and love are not just opposite emotions. According to the Course, they represent two completely different thought systems, two entirely different ways of perceiving and experiencing reality. And here's the crucial part. You can only operate from one at a time. You literally cannot be in fear and love simultaneously. It's like trying to be in darkness and light at the exact same moment. Impossible. Now, you might be thinking, but wait, I need some fears to survive. What about healthy fear that keeps me from walking into traffic? But here's where it gets fascinating. The Course makes a distinction between what it calls fear and what we might call appropriate caution or wisdom. True fear, in the Course's understanding, is always about something that doesn't actually exist. It's about illusions, projections, and imagined futures that rob us of peace in the present moment. Think about this for a moment. When was the last time you were truly afraid of something that was actually happening right now, in this very instant? Most of our fears are about what might happen, what could go wrong, or what we think other people might think. We're afraid of loss, rejection, illness, death, failure, or not being enough. But notice something profound here. All of these fears exist only in our thoughts about the future or our interpretations of the past. This is where the Course gets revolutionary. It suggests that fear is actually the ego's primary tool for maintaining what it calls the separation. You see, according to this teaching, there was never really a separation from love, from God, from our true nature. But the ego, that part of our mind that believes in separation, needs us to stay afraid in order to justify its existence. Fear keeps us focused on protecting a self that the Course says is actually an illusion. And here's where it connects directly to healing. Every illness, every form of suffering, every experience of dis-ease in your life can be traced back to this fundamental fear-based belief in separation. When you believe you're separate from love, separate from your source, separate from wholeness, your body and mind reflect this belief. They literally manifest the experience of being cut off, broken, or incomplete. But here's what's absolutely mind-blowing about this understanding. If fear is the root of all illness, and fear is based on illusions that aren't actually real, then healing becomes not about fighting disease or fixing problems, but about returning to truth. It becomes about remembering what was never actually broken in the first place. The ego doesn't want you to know this. It wants you to believe that you're fragile, vulnerable, and constantly under threat. It wants you to think that healing is difficult, rare, and requires tremendous effort or luck. Why? Because the moment you realize that fear is just a mistaken thought that you can choose to release, the ego's entire foundation starts to crumble. This is why you might notice that even when external circumstances improve in your life, if you haven't addressed the underlying fear-based thinking, new problems seem to appear. It's not that the universe is against you. It's that your mind is still operating from a thought system that believes in lack, limitation, and separation. But what if you could learn to recognize these fear-based thoughts as they arise? What if you could see them for what they really are? Just old programs running in your mind, not ultimate truths about reality. This recognition is the first step toward the most natural healing you can imagine. How healing actually occurs through the release of fear. Now that we understand how fear operates as the root of all suffering, let's explore something truly extraordinary, how healing actually works when fear is released. And I promise you, this is completely different from anything you've been taught about healing before. Here's the stunning truth, that A Course in Miracles reveals. Healing isn't something you have to make happen. It's not a process you have to figure out, force, or earn. Healing is actually what remains when you stop doing the thing that was blocking it in the first place. Think of it like this. You don't have to create sunshine. You just have to stop covering it with clouds. The Course teaches that your natural state is wholeness. Not potential wholeness, not future wholeness, but wholeness right now, in this very moment. The only thing standing between you and the experience of this wholeness is your belief in fear-based thoughts. Remove those thoughts, and healing doesn't have to arrive. It's simply uncovered. Like revealing a beautiful sculpture that was always there underneath the marble. But here's where most people get confused about spiritual healing. They think it means you have to achieve some perfect state of consciousness, or that you need to eliminate every fearful thought forever. That's not what we're talking about at all. The mechanism is much gentler and more accessible than that. The Course introduces us to what it calls the Holy Spirit, not as some external religious figure, but as the part of your own mind that remembers truth while you're lost in illusion. Think of the Holy Spirit as your internal healing system, always available, always working, always knowing exactly what you need for your highest good. This isn't something you have to believe in religiously. You can think of it as your deeper wisdom, your intuitive guidance, or simply the part of you that knows you're more than your fears. When you're willing to question a fear-based thought, not fight it, not suppress it, but simply question its validity, you create space for this deeper wisdom to offer you a different perspective. And here's what's miraculous about this process. The moment you see through a fear-based illusion, healing happens automatically. It's not that you heal and then feel better. The seeing itself is the healing. Let me give you a concrete example. Imagine you're experiencing anxiety about your health. The fear-based thought might be, something terrible is wrong with my body, and I'm powerless to fix it. When you bring this thought to your inner wisdom and truly question it, you might receive insights like, right now, in this moment I am breathing, my heart is beating, and life is flowing through me. This anxiety is about an imagined future, not present reality. Notice what happens in that shift. You haven't necessarily changed any external circumstances, but you've moved from fear to love, from illusion to truth. And in that movement, your entire physiology changes. Your nervous system relaxes, your immune system strengthens, your natural healing mechanisms activate. This isn't wishful thinking. This is how your body is designed to work when it's not, constantly flooded with stress hormones from fear-based thinking, living the principles of healing as release from fear. Now comes the part you've probably been waiting for. How do you actually apply these profound insights in your real, everyday life? How do you transform this beautiful understanding into lived experience when you're dealing with actual symptoms, real challenges, and those persistent, fearful thoughts that seem so convincing? The first thing to understand is that this isn't about becoming perfect or eliminating fear from your life completely. It's about developing a new relationship with fear. One where you recognize it quickly, question it gently, and choose love instead. Think of it like developing a new habit, except this habit has the power to transform not just your day, but your entire experience of being alive. Let's start with recognition, because you can't release what you don't see. Fear is incredibly clever at disguise. It doesn't always show up as obvious terror or panic. More often, it appears as that constant low-level tension in your shoulders, the way you automatically assume the worst outcome, or that voice in your head that says you're not doing enough, not healing fast enough, not spiritual enough. Fear loves to masquerade as practical concerns, realistic thinking, or even caring about others. Here's a simple but powerful practice. Throughout your day, whenever you notice yourself feeling contracted, worried, or upset, pause and ask yourself this question. What am I afraid of right now? Don't analyze or judge the answer. Just acknowledge it. You might be surprised by what you discover. Often, beneath surface irritations lie deeper fears about not being safe, not being loved, or not being enough. Once you've recognized the fear, the next step is what the Course calls the little willingness. You don't have to figure out how to stop being afraid. You don't have to talk yourself out of it or pretend it's not there. You simply need to be willing to see it differently. This might sound like, I'm noticing I'm afraid of this diagnosis, and I'm willing to see this situation through the eyes of love instead of fear. This is where forgiveness becomes crucial. And I'm not talking about the kind of forgiveness where you grit your teeth and try to be nice. Course forgiveness is recognizing that what you're upset about isn't actually real in the way you think it is. When you're afraid of illness, you're not really afraid of your body. You're afraid of the story you're telling yourself about what that illness means. You're afraid of the future scenario you've constructed in your mind. True forgiveness says, this fear-based story I'm telling myself about my situation isn't the whole truth. There's another way to see this. And then you become genuinely curious about what that other perspective might be. You invite your inner wisdom to show you a different way of understanding what's happening. Here's something remarkable that happens when you practice this consistently. You start to notice that your body responds immediately to these shifts in perception. Tension releases, breathing deepens, pain often subsides, and a sense of peace settles in. This isn't just emotional relief. This is your body's natural healing mechanisms kicking into gear when they're not being suppressed by chronic stress and fear. But here's the truly extraordinary part. Your healing doesn't just affect you. When you release fear and choose love, you're actually contributing to the healing of everyone around you. The Course teaches that minds are joined at a level deeper than we usually recognize. When you heal, you give everyone permission to heal. When you choose peace instead of fear, you're literally making it easier for others to do the same. This is why healing as release from fear is never just a personal journey. It's a gift to the entire world. Every moment you choose to see through fear to the love that's always present, you're adding to the collective awakening of humanity. You're proving that healing is possible, that peace is our natural state, and that love is ultimately stronger than any illusion of separation or sickness. The most practical thing you can do right now is start small. Pick one recurring fearful thought and practice questioning it today. Notice when you feel contracted and ask what you're afraid of. Be willing to see your challenges differently. Trust that your inner wisdom knows exactly how to guide you toward healing. And remember, you're not doing this alone. The Course calls these shifts in perception miracles, but they're actually the most natural thing in the world. You experience mini miracles all the time. Those moments when worry dissolves and you suddenly feel peaceful. When pain subsides after you stop focusing on it intensely. When problems that seemed overwhelming suddenly have obvious solutions. What makes this process so powerful is that true healing always happens in your mind first. Your body, your circumstances, your relationships, they're all reflections of your inner state. Change the inner and the outer must follow. This is why someone can receive a scary diagnosis and, through shifting their relationship with fear, experience complete healing, while someone else can have access to the best medical care but remain sick because they haven't addressed the fear-based beliefs creating their illness. Here's the most beautiful part. You don't have to understand how this works for it to work. You don't need to analyze the mechanics or convince yourself intellectually. You simply need to be willing to question your fearful thoughts and remain open to guidance from that place of deeper knowing within you. Remember, the healing journey isn't about perfection. It's about willingness. It's about those small, brave moments when you choose to question fear and remain open to love. You have everything you need within you, and every step forward, no matter how small, is celebrated. What we've explored together today isn't just another approach to healing. It's an invitation to remember who you really are beneath all the layers of fear and separation. We've discovered that fear is not your protector, but the very thing creating your suffering. That healing is your natural state simply waiting to be uncovered, and that you have everything you need within you right now to begin this beautiful journey of release and remembrance. The truth is, every time you choose to question a fearful thought, every moment you're willing to see through the eyes of love instead of fear, you're not just healing yourself, you're contributing to a collective awakening that this world desperately needs. Your healing matters more than you know. If this message resonated with you today, if something clicked or shifted as we explored these ideas together, I'd be incredibly grateful if you could take just a moment to let me know by hitting that like button. Your response helps me understand what serves you most and allows this content to reach others who are searching for the same peace and healing you're discovering. And if you're feeling called to dive deeper into these life-changing principles from A Course in Miracles, please consider subscribing to this channel. We're building a community of souls who are ready to see beyond fear, to remember their wholeness, and to live from love. There's so much more to explore together. From other profound sections of the Course to practical applications that can transform every aspect of your daily experience. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. What fear-based thought are you most ready to question? What shifted for you as we explored these ideas? Or maybe you have insights from your own healing journey that could inspire others watching this video. Your sharing creates connection and reminds all of us that we're not walking this path alone. And if you know someone who's struggling with health challenges, relationship difficulties, or simply that persistent feeling that something is fundamentally wrong, someone who might benefit from understanding that healing is possible through the release of fear, please consider sharing this video with them. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is offer a different perspective to someone we care about. Thank you for being here, for being open to these ideas, and for being part of this beautiful community of healing. Until we meet again, may you walk in peace, may you remember your wholeness, and may you trust the love that you are, with deep gratitude and infinite love.